Today was supposed to be a normal day. I was supposed to go to Brouhaha, the best coffee shop in town. They were just releasing their autumn-themed drinks, and I needed me a limited edition pumpkin spice latte. I was supposed to walk in, all cute in my Uggs and flannel, and flirt with the cute barista that always worked on Tuesdays. I was supposed to sip on my drink and stare out the window at the leaves that were falling before leaving to head to school. I wasn't supposed to be almost blasted to pieces by a sorceress. It started as it should. I walked in, got my coffee. The barista greeted me with a bright smile. "Hey Jade, I assume you're here for the pumpkin spice latte?" I smiled and nodded. Everyone who worked here knew me and my order very well. I started on my delicious drink and watched people walking by in the streets. That's when things went wrong. This girl walked in. Let me tell you, she looked like she had come from a Gothic castle or something. Black leather pants that were ripped, a black corset-type shirt, and a black leather jacket. Lots of black, EW. I got this weird feeling as she stepped in, a sort of fluttering in my chest. I chose to ignore it and continued sipping on my coffee. She had deep green eyes and so many piercings, she wouldn't need to wear a reflective vest if she worked in construction. Anyways, you guessed it, black hair was in this intricate braid and her eyeliner wings were big enough to fly her away. She walked in and glared at some random dude in the corner. He also looked like he belonged in the Dark Ages, probably just a bunch of weirdos. I got this weird feeling when she came close to me, a sort of fluttering in my chest. I chose to ignore it and continued sipping on my coffee. They didn't stop their little glaring contest, and I decided that I didn't care and paid no mind to it. That is until the chair flew across the room. I screamed and jumped out of my chair. I had spilled my coffee. Who in their right mind would throw a chair across a coffee shop, unless there was something wrong with their limited edition pumpkin spice latte? Now that I can totally relate to. Not that I've done it before or anything. You really think you could hide from us, Orion? The boy she had been glaring at stared her down, an evil grin on his face. I was getting annoyed. They were obviously my age, and as a senior in high school, it was kind of offensive that they were throwing temper tantrums and playing dress-up. In a public place. Oh no, darling, I was hoping you would find me, I've missed you. She clenched her fist and unsheathed a sword, a freaking sword. Where did this person come from, and where did she get that thing? It almost looked real. She stepped closer to him and my eyes widened, electricity was swirling around the blade. These effects were flipping awesome. Maybe they were Halloween costumes, I guess it would make sense because October was fairly close. I suggest you surrender now, we aren't playing your games anymore. He clicked his tongue, it was one of those moments where you felt like you should have a bag of popcorn. Dear Annie, you know that you aren't going to beat me. These people were committed, I had to say. I almost expected a dragon to fly out of the sky or something. She glared at him and I tried to sneak out of the shop before she tried to use that cosplay sword thing. I had things to do and I didn't want to spend my time watching teenagers act like preschoolers. I was almost there. About 2 feet away from the door, but apparently, the boy didn't want me to get out. He thrust out his hand and some kind of energy pulled me back. I yelled out as my body flew through the air, I landed with my neck in his hand. Struggling to break free of his hold. Let me go, I don't want to be a part of your freak show or whatever this is. The girl ran forward and swung the sword in the air, Orion or whatever his name is, dodged it easily. Throwing a chair at her, she sliced it in half like it was butter. My mouth fell open, holy heck, that thing was real? That's when I got scared. Suddenly, she did some weird gesture with her hand, and I swear my legs almost separated from my body. The spot in front of Orion exploded, I was thrown backwards, directly into the wall. Slamming my head off the stone and falling onto the floor with a cry of pain. I dragged myself out of the line of fire and ended up by a table. I stared at the two of them fearfully, my vision getting hazy. I had just managed to sit myself upright when the girl, Annie, I think her name was, raised her arms. If you've ever heard the term your life flashes before your eyes, that's what it felt like. Wind whistled in my ears and I cried out as everything in the shop was lifted up and started spinning around the room in a sort of hurricane motion. A metal chair leg scraped across my head and I fell over, feeling blood trickle down my head. What I thought was some weirdos arguing turned out to be some magical thing that was so far out of what I thought I knew. Weird pulses of energy were being thrown back and forth between them. I struggled to make my way to the door, but the whole shop was basically a vortex of wind and flying tables. I saw everyone else that had been inside were all hiding behind the counter, not sure what to do. When I reached the door, it was jammed shut. Frustrated, I stood up and hurled a chair at it with all of the energy I could muster. Naturally, the chair broke, and the door remained stuck. I turned back to the two people. I could curl up under a table and hide like a coward. Or I could try to help. It was obvious that Orion was the enemy here, and Ani was facing him all by herself. I squinted and forced myself through the wind, trying to figure out how I could be a help to her. What happened next would forever change my life. Orion swung his arm around his head like he was holding a lasso, and threw his arm out in the direction of Ani. I saw a gold streak of energy rushing towards her. It resembled a knife. I leapt forward, using all of my strength to get me through the power of the wind. With a yell, I threw my hand out attempting to shield her somehow. When I did, a powerful force shot out of my hand and directly into Orion's chest. He yelled out and there was a bright flash of light and a high-pitched whining sound. Ani and I were blown backwards by the energy, flailing in the air and back on the ever-familiar ground. Ani was up first. She was clutching her arm. There was a gaping wound in it. Looking at me, she spoke surely. "Jade." She said it as a statement, not a question. I nodded, my head was pounding and my ears were ringing. She sighed and held out her hand. "Thank God I found you. Come with me, we've been looking for you." I guess I wouldn't be getting my pumpkin spice latte